Once upon a time, among snow-covered mountains, silver waterfalls, and sapphire blue lakes, there stood a beautiful kingdom called Noor Mahal. In this kingdom lived Princess Eliza, a kind-hearted and graceful young woman loved by everyone. Her long black hair flowed like silk, her face shone like the moon, and her deep eyes seemed to hold the sadness of an untold story. Eliza was loved throughout the kingdom because of her kindness. She cared for injured birds, helped poor children, and treated every person with respect. Yet Eliza carried a secret that no one knew. Every night, after the palace fell silent, she would walk to an ancient wardrobe in the corner of her room. By day, it looked ordinary, but at midnight, a golden line appeared across its surface, slowly opening into a magical doorway. Stepping through it, Eliza entered another world called Dreamhaven. Dreamhaven was unlike anything she had ever seen. The sky was purple, silver leaves shimmered on the trees, and lakes reflected countless stars. Yet, despite its beauty, sadness covered the land. Long ago, the Queen of Dreamhaven had fallen into a deep sleep. Since then, joy had vanished from the kingdom. The gardens withered, the palaces stood empty, and hope faded from the hearts of its people. Eliza remembered the first time she entered Dreamhaven. She had been a little girl, crying over a torn blue shawl left by her mother. Through her tears, the wardrobe had opened, leading her to a lonely child sitting beneath a dead tree. The child told her that an ancient prophecy spoke of a girl from another world who would bring light back to Dreamhaven. From that night onward, Eliza visited Dreamhaven every evening. She fed hungry children, comforted the elderly, restored abandoned gardens, and encouraged those who had lost hope. Wherever she walked, golden light appeared beneath her feet. Flowers bloomed, lakes filled with sparkling water, and smiles slowly returned to people's faces. But there was one important rule. She had to leave before sunrise. If she remained in Dreamhaven after the sun rose, she would be trapped there forever. For years, Eliza protected this secret. But in Noor Mahal, there was one person whose heart was filled with jealousy rather than love. Her name was Zarnagar. She was the royal astrologer and keeper of ancient secrets. Once admired by everyone, she had grown bitter as the kingdom's affection turned toward Eliza. The next night, while Eliza was helping the people of Dreamhaven, Zarngar entered the princess's chamber. Opening her ancient spell books, she cast a silent enchantment upon the magical doorway. It was a cruel spell. The next time Eliza returned from Dreamhaven, the door would close forever. Meanwhile, Eliza spent the night spreading hope throughout the sorrowful kingdom. She had no idea that danger awaited her back home. As dawn approached, she hurried toward the doorway. The moment she stepped through, a powerful flash of silver light filled the room. The wardrobe trembled. The golden doorway began to disappear. "No!" Eliza cried, rushing toward it. But the magic was stronger than she expected. The doorway sealed shut. The connection between Noor Mahal and Dreamhaven was broken. Eliza stared in shock. The people of Dreamhaven still needed her. Without the doorway, she could never return. From the shadows, Zarngar appeared with a cold smile. "You stole the love that belonged to me," she said. "Now let us see how your precious Dreamhaven survives without you." Eliza's heart sank, but she refused to give up. That very night, as she sat beside the sealed wardrobe, a tiny golden feather appeared on the floor. It glowed softly. Attached to it was a small note written in silver light. "The door may be closed, but hope is not. Find the sleeping queen, and the path will open again." Eliza looked at the message and felt courage return to her heart. The journey was not over. In fact, it was only beginning. That night, an unusual coldness spread across Dreamhaven. Dark clouds covered the purple sky, and the moon was wrapped in a blanket of mist. When Eliza arrived, she discovered that the great tree in Dreamhaven's oldest garden had completely withered. This ancient tree was the symbol of life in their world. If it fell, Dreamhaven would be consumed by darkness forever. Eliza rushed to the tree and placed both her hands on its roots. Tears filled her eyes. "I won't let you die," she whispered. Just then, the little girl who had become her closest friend came running toward her. Her name was Ma. "Eliza," she cried, "the wind feels different tonight. I think your path home is growing weaker." Eliza's heart skipped a beat. She immediately ran toward the palace. But when she reached the magical doorway, the golden light was fading. She stretched out her hand and tried to open the door, but on the other side stood a cold and invisible wall. The doorway had closed. "No!" Her voice broke. "This can't be happening." She pounded on the door again and again, but there was no response. The icy winds of Dreamhaven howled around her. Ma held onto her dress. "Does this mean you can't go home anymore?" Tears rolled. Meanwhile, morning had arrived in Norma Hall. When the king realized that Eliza was not in her room, panic spread throughout the palace. Soldiers rushed through the halls. Servants burst into tears. Fear filled the king's eyes. "Where is my daughter?" Pretending to be worried, Zarngar said, "Your Majesty, some secrets leave with the people who carry them. Perhaps the princess has followed a dream." Her words pierced the king's heart like an arrow. One day passed, then another night, then another day, but Eliza never returned. The joy of Norma Hall slowly faded away. The king stopped eating. The flowers in the royal gardens drooped. Sadness settled over the palace corridors. People gathered outside the palace gates and prayed for their beloved princess. Meanwhile, in Dreamhaven, Eliza searched for every possible way home. But the door remained closed. Even so, she continued helping others. She cried in private, but smiled whenever Ma was near. She sang songs for sick children, lit lanterns in forgotten gardens, and every night sat before the sealed doorway, whispering, "Father, I want to come home." One night, a strange light appeared inside the palace of the sleeping queen. When Eliza entered, she saw a crystal bowl beside the queen's bed. It was not filled with water. It was filled with tears. Then a gentle voice echoed through the chamber. "This bowl is filled with the truest sorrows from both worlds." At that very moment, the king sat alone in Eliza's empty room. In his hands was a small toy from her childhood. For the first time, he broke down and wept. "Oh Lord, wherever my daughter may be, keep her safe. If her happiness belongs in another world, I will sacrifice my own. Just let me see her one more time." The light of his sincere tears fell into the crystal bowl in Dreamhaven. At the same moment, Eliza raised her hands and prayed. "If my return would bring darkness back to Dreamhaven, then let me stay here. But please take this sorrow away from my father's heart." Her tears joined the king's in the bowl. Suddenly, the entire palace. A few days after Eliza returned to Norma Hall, happiness slowly returned to the kingdom. The flowers bloomed once again. Music filled the palace halls, and the king smiled for the first time in many weeks. Yet deep inside her heart, Eliza knew there was one final thing she had to do. She had to say goodbye to Dreamhaven. On the night of the full moon, the magical doorway opened one last time. Golden light spread across her chamber floor. Taking a deep breath, Eliza stepped through. Dreamhaven had changed. The sky glowed with silver and violet colors. The lakes sparkled like liquid stars. The gardens overflowed with flowers. And the great ancient tree stood taller and stronger than ever before. As Eliza walked through the kingdom, people gathered to welcome her. Children ran beside her. Old women smiled through tears of happiness. Silver lanterns floated gently through the air. At the palace, Queen Seraphina stood waiting. Beside her was Ma, who ran forward and wrapped Eliza in a tight hug. "You came back," Ma whispered. "Of course," Eliza replied. "I could never leave without saying goodbye." That night, Dreamhaven celebrated. Music echoed through the streets. People danced beneath the stars. Laughter filled every corner of the kingdom. But as midnight drew near, Queen Seraphina led Eliza to a balcony overlooking the shining lakes. "My child," a few days after Eliza returned to Norma Hall, happiness slowly returned to the kingdom. The flowers bloomed once again. Music filled the palace halls, and the king smiled for the first time in many weeks. Yet deep inside her heart, Eliza knew there was one final thing she had to do. She had to say goodbye to Dreamhaven. On the night of the full moon, the magical doorway opened one last time. Golden light spread across her chamber floor. Taking a deep breath, Eliza stepped through. Dreamhaven had changed. The sky glowed with silver and violet colors. The lakes sparkled like liquid stars. The gardens overflowed with flowers. And the great ancient tree stood taller and stronger than ever before. As Eliza walked through the kingdom, people gathered to welcome her. Children ran beside her. Old women smiled through tears of happiness. Silver lanterns floated gently through the air. At the palace, Queen Seraphina stood waiting. Beside her was Ma, who ran forward and wrapped Eliza in a tight hug. "You came back," Ma whispered. "Of course," Eliza replied. "I could never leave without saying goodbye." That night, Dreamhaven celebrated. Music echoed through the streets. People danced beneath the stars. Laughter filled every corner of the kingdom. But as midnight drew near, Queen Seraphina led Eliza to a balcony overlooking the shining lakes. "My child," Ma's eyes filled with tears. "I'll miss you every day." Eliza hugged her tightly. "And I will never forget you." As the clock struck midnight, the magical doorway appeared one final time. The people of Dreamhaven gathered to say farewell. Thousands of silver lanterns rose into the sky like stars. Eliza waved goodbye to Ma, Queen Seraphina, and all the friends she had made. Then she stepped through the doorway. The golden door slowly faded away, and Dreamhaven disappeared forever. Years passed. The king of Norma Hall grew older and wiser. One day, before the entire kingdom, he placed a beautiful silver crown upon Eliza's head. Today, he announced proudly, Princess Eliza becomes Queen Eliza of Norma Hall. The crowd erupted into cheers. But Queen Eliza did not rule with fear or power. She ruled with kindness. She listened before she judged. She helped before she commanded. And she loved before expecting love in return. Under her reign, Norma Hall became the happiest kingdom in the land. People often said that whenever Queen Eliza looked toward the stars, a faint silver light appeared in the sky.
Some believed it was Dreamhaven watching over her. Others believed it was simply the light of hope she had left behind. But Eliza knew the truth. Love never truly says goodbye. It lives forever in every heart it touches. And so the story of the princess who saved 2 worlds became a legend.